Welcome to Neo Royal House of Pricey Cardboard. Today, on episode 22 of Commander Gameplay, I'm joined by some awesome content creators for a match of online EDH. I'll try and go quick since I have so many things to talk about in the introduction. I will be facing the one and only Commander Mechanic. Chris is a very good brewer and you can find many of his deck techs on YouTube. He brought for us today a 3-headed commander deck, led by Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, Miara, Thorn of the Glade, and their companion, Gyruda, Doom of Death. While Miara is as important as Khazur is to Ukima, Gyruda fills a very important role in the list. The goal of the deck is to get Gyruda in play and then use one of many available clone creatures to mill into more clones and take over the board with many demons krakens. This is made possible by the new Sakashima who negates the legend rule for its owner. While I still think the nerf to companion in EDH was very rough on their playability, the fact that this deck contains no 3 drops helps find a moment to put Gyruda to hand. Next we have Proxy-Lab, my fellow Canadian artiste. You can find him on Twitter sharing his creations, but he won't sell them to you. Oh no. He brought to the table today Yennett Cryptic Sovereign, which is really fun since we have Chris piloting an even CMC deck. Yennett wants to play with the top of its library to flip into great odd CMC spells and cast them for free. While there's a couple of classic cards for Yennett in the deck, I found this list very interesting as it is a bit more creature focused than the Yennett list we saw on the channel before. I always enjoy playing against Proxy, even if our friendly rivalry ends up often killing us both. My last guest for today, Unsummoned Skull, a man of 1,000 jobs and even more stories. You can find him on Twitch every Tuesday and Thursday streaming some webcam EDH and unsummoning all sorts of permanents. Always coming to the table with a special brew, he brought today Vorel of the whole clade, a burn Simic deck. Packing its fair share of unsummoned effects, we also have a lot of damage cards that mostly trigger based on hand size. And so, the best way to burn his opponents is to make everyone draw. Malignant Growth was the original piece that made Vorel into the perfect commander. For myself, I will be playing my Arcades the Strategist. Funny enough, the last time we had Arcades on the channel, it was against the other Yennett. The base plan of Arcades didn't really change, but I did decide to embrace the combo of Axebane Guardian and High Alert. When the deck was only combat based, it was in direct competition with my Gerrit deck, and it really lowered my fun playing the list. Now that it is my combo deck, I aim for a different play experience while still being able to get in for some great damage. I packed some more interaction to protect my important pieces and lowered my wall CMC even a little bit more. It's still a really soft and fair combo deck, but that's how I like my magic. My opening hand contains Drift of Phantasm, Sun Titan, Tingle Flora Hedron, Growing Rites of Itlimoc, Bountiful Promenade, Myriad Landscape, and a Reliquary Tower. It's a pretty good hand I think. The Myriad will help me fixing my colors, the Growing Rites cantrip itself, and my friend the Flora Hedron is there for some early ramp. Sun Titan and Drift of Phantasm are great together since I can discard the wall and fetch a 3 CMC and then bring it back. Skull's opening hand contains Ebony Howl, Nitsuke, Primal Order, Praetor's Council, a pair of basic forests, and 2 basic islands. A safe hand, we have the 4 lands and 2 burn permanents that can be dropped in the early turns. If he finds a way to draw some cards, this will go smoothly. Proxy's opening hand contains Soothsaying, Mind's Dilation, Shieldred Whispering One, Soul Ring, Thought Vessel, Exotic Orchard, and a Scrub land. I think we have everything we need for a good Yennett match. Top deck manipulation and some great ramp. You only need to find his 3rd color to cast the commander and Soothsaying will give him all the gas. Finally, Chris's opening hand contains Snapcaster Mage, Phyrexian Metamorph, Bojikabog, Morphic Pool, and 3 basic islands. A pretty soft hand, we do not have any ramp or draw, but having 3 cards in your command zone makes it so that you will never run out of spells to cast. Having a clone already in hand will fuel his game plan once Gyruda is in play. I get to start this all-star match, and land drop a Myriad Landscape. Proxy land drops a Scrub land, and Chris land drops a Morphic Pool. Skull land drops a Forest, ending the first turn of the game. I land drop a Bountiful Promenade, and cast Tangle Flora Hedron, the little friend that could. Proxy land drops an Exotic Orchard, and casts Thought Vessel. Chris land drops an island, and inspired by his opponent, casts a Thought Vessel of his own. Skull land drops an island and casts Ebony Hall Netsuke. I land drop Flooded Grove and cast my commander, Arcades the Strategist.
Let them break themselves on the walls of our castle.
Proxy land drops Watery Grave untapped, taking 2. He then casts Soaring and follow it up with his commander, Yennett Cryptic Sovereign.
Our master talks using riddles, our disciples alone can unravel.
Chris land drops an island and one of his many commanders, Miara, Thorn of the Glade.
Shh, I'm only here to give access to black.
Skull land drops a forest and continue the trend with Vorel of the whole clade.
I used to hurl rocks and eat scraps of meat burned over a fire. Look at what I've become.
I land drop a Reliquary Tower, joining the Unlimited in Size Club, and cast Wall of Omens, Arcades and the Wall ETB triggers, drawing me 2 cards. I then cast Growing Rites of Vitlemok. I reveal Wall of Tangle card from my top 4. I then go to combat and send Arcades to Skull for 3. Proxy casts a flashy Iliad Sun-Crowned Altar. He then activates Iliad to give Yennett lifelink. Going into combat, he attacks Chris with Yennett, triggering her. He reveals Flooded Strand and puts it to hand. Chris takes 3 and Yennett gains a +1/+1 counter. He then land drops Flooded Strand, cracking it to fetch a Tundra. Chris land drops an island. He then brings his companion to hand, passing. Skull land drops an island and casts Primal Order. This, with the bird, will start to make a lot of damage. At my upkeep, I take 4 for my non-basics and 4 from the owl. I land drop a basic forest and cast Stalwart Shield Bearer. Arcades triggers, drawing a card. Heading into combat, Wall of Omens heads to Proxy and Arcades to Skull.
But I'm supposed to attack Unsummoned Skull, but now I have to attack you again.
You don't have to take it so personal.
We've played this game before, man.
Yeah, and we both died.
We both did.
Yeah.
In second main, I cast Overgrown Battlement. I then cast Wall of Tangle card, drawing once more. At the end step, my Growing Rites flips into Itlamok, Cradle of the Sun. At his upkeep, Proxy takes 4 from his non-basics. He then casts Brainstorm. After that, he casts Dimir Signet and land drops an island. He follow it up with Soothsaying and activate Iliad to give Yennett lifelink. For his combat, he sends Yennett to Skull. She triggers and he reveals Archfiend of Depravity.
See now you're playing the same game. I have to swing you now.
Why do you have to swing at me? You don't have to swing at me at all. So she'll gain a counter, I believe.
Skull then takes 4 and Yennett gains another +1/+1 counter. In second main, Proxy casts Grim Tutor, passing while he searches. At Chris's upkeep, he takes a total of 5 from Skull's permanents. He then casts Gyruda, Doom of the Depth, the real monster of this 3-headed commander deck.
Some say a beast lives in those waters. You see, it's called the Demon Kraken!
Entering the battlefield, each player mills 4 and we only milled Thieving Skydiver as an even CMC creature. Chris puts it on the battlefield. At the end step, the Archfiend makes Chris sacrifice the Merfolk. Skull then drops a forest and casts Howling Mine. At his end step, I cast Beast Within, targeting the Archfiend. At my upkeep, I lose 5 from my non-basic lands. I draw 2 from Howling Mines, and then head straight into combat. I send the Tangle card to Proxy, Arcades to Skull, and Wall of Omens to Chris. I then crack my Myriad Landscape for 2 basic islands, and follow it up by casting Tulane, Teller of Tales. I'm then stuck with a bunch of green mana, and can only cast Sword of the Animus before passing the turn. At Proxy's upkeep, he takes 4. He then casts Aminatu, the Fate Stitcher. He puts 6 into Soothsaying, preparing his evil plans. Going into combat, Yennett attacks Skull again. On attack, he reveals Lord of the Void and put it on the battlefield. In second main, he +1 Aminatu, drawing and putting 1 back. Chris untaps and takes 1 at the upkeep. He then land drops an island, and casts another commander, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces.
Now you see me?
Now you don't. Entering as Gyruda, we mill our top 4. and Chris takes the Cloud Treasure. Entering the battlefield, flying creatures and players take 2. He then casts Phyrexian Metamorph, paying 2 life. It enters as the Sakashima copy of Gyruda. We mill our top 4 and Chris picks Sakura Tribuilder from my pile. He immediately sacrificed my creature for a basic land. At the end step, Skull casts Capsize on his Cloud Treasure. The King of Unsummoning has spoken. During his turn, Skull land drops a forest and pass. At my upkeep, I take 5 from my non-basic. I land drop Windswept Heath and crack it for a basic plains. I go to combat and I send Arcades with Wall of Omens to Chris. Entangle Cord to Skull, which he blocks with Vorel. After combat, I cast Wall of Stolen Identity. Chulane triggers and I land drop a Sungrass Prairie. My wall enters as a Yennett, tapping the original. I then draw from Arcades. I follow it up with Sun Titan, Chulane triggers and I have no land to drop. Sun Titan ETB then trigger and return Carven Caryatid to my side. Both Arcades and the wall ETB draw me a card. I then cast Aura Shard. And the original Captain Sese. Chulane triggers and I land drop a forest. Aura Shard triggers, destroying Soothsaying. I then cast Drift of Phantasm. Chulane trigger and I land drop a Command Tower. Arcades and Aura Shard trigger, drawing and destroying the Primal Order. I then cast Wave of Reckoning. I lose 3 creatures and clear Chris' board of Demon Krakens. Proxy +1 Aminatu, playing with his top deck. He then casts Mind Dilation. Chris go by his upkeep without no additional damage. He land drops a Polluted Delta, cracking it for a basic swamp. He then casts Demotic Tutor, Proxy's Dilation trigger for Talisman of Dominance, which stays in exile. The tutor then resolves and fetches Damnation, which he immediately cast. I told him I just board white, but he wasn't satisfied with my job. At the end step, Skull flashes in Cloud Treasure. Dilation triggers first for Thought Prison and Proxy leaves it in exile. Cloud Treasure ETB then triggers. Skull untaps and casts Malignant Growth, the main reason for his pick of Vorel as a Simic Burn commander. Dilation triggers and reveals a forest. He head into combat and, following my subtle hint, sends Cloud Treasure to Proxy.
So I'm gonna send 7 at Proxy.
I guess.
And then
Skull then casts Engineered Explosive with 2 counters before passing the turn. I then drop a basic plains and recast Arcades. Dilation triggers for Temple Garden. Aura Shard then triggers and destroys Dilation. I cast Wall of Denial. Aura Shard and Arcades triggers, destroying the Ebony Howl and drawing a card. I then cast Swiftfoot Boots and equip them to Arcades. I equip the Sword of the Animist to him as well. Going into combat, I send Arcades to Skull once more. Sword of the Animist triggers for a basic land. Proxy then drops an Underground Sea and recasts Yennett. He then casts Pondering Mage and +1 Aminatu. During Chris's upkeep, he casts Limdul's Vault. He pays 4 life and settles on the 5th pile. He then draws 2 of them for the Howling Mines. He then drops a Misty Rain Forest, cracking it. After that, he casts Mox Diamond, a Sheepwave original proxy that you can see on the screen right now. He followed it up with the card he was searching for, Dance of the Dead. Gyruda returns to the battlefield and we mill our top 4s. Chris picks Spark Double, which enters as a second Gyruda. He then picks Phantasmal Image, entering as Gyruda. He then picks Sakashima, entering as Gyruda. No even creatures are milled on this trigger. Not one to be discouraged, Chris recasts Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, entering as, wait for it, Gyruda. He picks Clone, entering as Gyruda. He can't continue the chain and picks my Orator of Ujatai. At his upkeep, Skull does not pay for his Malignant Growth, and casts Praetor's Console, returning around 30 cards to his hand. I then drop a Canopy Vista, and cast Wall of Kelp. Arcades triggers for a card. I then cast Slaughter the Strong. I pick my whole board. Proxy picks Yennett, Chris picks the Orator, and Skull can't keep anything. I then cast my best card, Traproot Kami. Arcades triggers, and I remember Orishard destroying Chris's thought vessel, kicking him out of the Unlimited Insize Club. I cast my Sakashima the Imposter. I'm not gonna lie if I say I wasn't tempted by picking Gyruda, but my deck was already too small. I instead decide on a second Wall of Denial. I then cast Odric Lunar Marshal, and follow it up with Tetsuko Omizawa Fugitive. Having assembled a lot of powerful effects, I go to combat. Odric triggers, granting haste, flying, vigilance, and X-proof to all of my creatures. I sadly can't take out everyone, and decide to take out Proxy and Chris while dealing 8 to Skull. At the current moment, I was looking at the board and Skull had no board present, so my threat meter was very low, but I did forget to take in consideration that he took a good part of his deck into his hand. He untaps and casts River's Rebuke, targeting me. The spell resolves sadly, and he followed it up with Iron Maiden and a Black Vice. I go to my upkeep, and without any creatures with flash or any instant spells, I take 9 twice from the Iron Maiden and Black Vice, losing the game. Looking back at this game, we'll start with the ending. I should have taken out Skull instead of Proxy. I based my attack on the current board and forgot the amount of cards in player's hand. I was correct eliminating Chris since I only had 20 cards left in my library. We had a good chance to mill me out. I was scared of what Yennett could flip into, but it would have been a safer bet than Skull. It was a very fun game, every deck got to do its thing. Primal Order is a very interesting piece that can punish decks for not running enough basics. But you need to be able to manage the hate from the opponents, as player removal is often easier than enchantment removal. Chris' deck was great. I am a big Dimir fan, and seeing him get 6 Demon Kraken in the same turn was really fun. He sadly did not get to attack with them, as there's been quite a few board wipes. Proxy had a pretty soft game, the Mind's Dilation did not get him anything crazy, and his Lord of the Void did not get to attack. Once again, the board wipes coming in handy. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and a huge thank you to all of my guests. You will be able to find links to their respective socials in the description, as well as the deck list from this match. I started to play more over webcam and have a bunch of great games to edit with other great guests, so make sure to subscribe to see them on release. New video every Friday and Thursday for our lovely Patreons. See you soon and take care.